Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to another episode of the Worthiness Codes Podcast. I'm your host, Jaclyn Francis, and as always, it is so beautiful to be in this space with you today. Happy 12/12 portal, whatever that means. I think we love, especially in New Age spirituality, no hate, I'm a part of New Age spirituality. We like to attach to things that seem trendy. I don't know if today if there's validity to this date. Um, Typically when there is a portal date, there is something that's happening within the cosmos that makes it an energetically aligned and energetically powerful, potent date. If we look at the most well-known date is 8/8, which is Lionsgate portal. And from what I understand, I don't know if it's every year, but the astrology doesn't always align to the actual date of 8/8. So the portal doesn't always even open on 8/8. So looking at 12/12, I have no idea what's actually happening in the cosmos if it's a valid portal date. What I do know is if you feel excited today, if you feel like the energy is more powerful, if you feel like manifesting to receive or to sit and release, allow yourself to do so. Discern whether this is a energetically aligned date for you. Use the energy to your advantage if you feel it. Last night was a very heavy day for me in terms of feeling. I had a lot going on within my own self. So within, so without. So it could be tied to the 12/12 portal. The full moon is also coming up on the 15th. So it most likely is tied to that. Or it can just be tied to what I'm experiencing within my own life. But again, so within, so without. So always use your discernment. You don't need to attach to specific dates. You don't need to attach to what other people are telling you. When you understand your power, you understand the way that your emotions work, your body works, how you can be your own alchemist. That is when you use the energy around and within you to your advantage. So, with that being said, I hope you have a beautiful day if you want to celebrate the 12/12 portal or if you don't. But yeah, let's dive into today's episode. I want to talk about really what's going on within my own field, what's on my heart, and that's heavily tied to showing up as this new version of self within a romantic container. And when I say romantic container, what I mean is dating, what I mean is relationship, what I mean is a energetic experience where there are two people involved and you are co-creating an experience that you're both sharing while also having your own. That is a relationship at the end of the day. The most important thing to understand about a union, about stepping into partnership with someone in a very healthy, conscious way, is that there are always two people involved, for the most part, two people involved, each living out their own experience while cultivating a space to have a shared experience. So typically the way that I've showed up in past relationships when I was an old version of self before this last awakening, I was someone who was very codependent. I know I talked about this on another episode when I talked about codependency and narcissism. That was very obvious within that relationship. But as someone who has healed and who has really transformed and has evolved, my soul has evolved, I have deepened, I have expanded my consciousness to show up as the person, as Jaclyn today, to enter into a container with another person has been incredibly eye-opening. It has been different, but it's been so authentic because it's who I am. It's the way that I have been living my life for this past year and a half. The one thing that I will say, and this is a reflection, if you are someone who has just gone through a rebirth, who has just had an awakening, whether that's a first time awakening or that's just a new level of awakening, or if you've recently been on a really deep journey of ascension, of self-growth, of self-discovery, however you choose to look at it, if you evolved and stepped into a new version of self, and you are just entering into a relationship or you are beginning to date, know that with that, there is going to come a lot of triggers. It is going to be confronting. And now I want to take a step back because what's coming through is attachment to specific titles of what relationships can be. So in New Age spirituality, a lot of the times people talk about soulmates and twin flames and divine union and karmic relationships. And as someone, again, who doesn't like to attach and label things, I do think there is validity within the differences of the energies of partners of romantic containers. I don't like to label something because that's when your ego will start going crazy and wanting to go down a rabbit hole and wanting to dissect everything that comes up. If you just allow yourself to understand, okay, you are stepping into a romantic container and it will present itself the way that it's meant to present itself, whether that's through receiving lessons for your own soul's growth, whether that's cultivating lessons together within the container for both people involved, for both of their soul's evolution, or whether that's being together for the remainder of this lifetime, right? There really doesn't need to be expectations or labels attached, especially when it's new, especially when you're going in. Because when you enter into, we can call it a conscious relationship, when both parties are conscious and they are emotionally intelligent and they're self-aware, they are going to understand that things will come up. And what matters is how you choose to move through those things. Are you going to act from a place of ego? Or are you going to act from a place of love, from the heart, and be able to hold space, to see one another, to understand, not always agree, but to respect and to move forward? Are you going to be able to allow the other person to be their fullest expression of their most authentic self and like who that person is every step of the way, however they show up? Or are you going to choose to judge, to criticize, right? So these are things that you will be confronted with and that you should really pay attention to allow yourself to be present, to allow yourself to just show up in the best light as your most authentic self, which, if you are genuinely aligned and embodying your most authentic self, it's not going to feel uncomfortable. It will feel uncomfortable, and I'll get to that in a second, but it's going to feel like it's your truth. Like, this is who you are now. This is how you decide to show up. This is how you choose to work through things. You are no longer choosing to fight or to yell. And of course there will be arguments, but like, the energy most likely will be very different if you've done the work to evolve, especially when you're in a container where the two people involved have done the work on their own to come together in a union. A lot of the lower vibrational aspects and the ego-driven aspects don't necessarily exist. Of course, they will come up because you are meant to be triggered when you're stepping into a container as this evolved version of self. It's literally looking at relationship through a completely different lens. And that is something that I am experiencing. That is something that is so new to me, while at the same time, it's so comfortable because it's natural. Like, it's just this feeling. And like, if you're there, you'll understand. But it's just this feeling of, oh, well, this is how it's supposed to be. All of the ways I've done it in the past, that was wrong. That doesn't make sense. That was me attaching to a person. That was me attaching to expectations. That was me attaching to a certain vision or a certain narrative, for me acting through my ego to make my point known, to make my voice heard, to put someone else down. So I was right. Whatever has happened in past relationships that did not serve you, you can literally look back and see the evolution of then to now of your soul. And it's beautiful, but it should feel very natural, because if you've done the work to truly evolve, to awaken, there's that embodiment. And when you embody those new aspects of self, when you embody that deeper or that newfound depth of your soul and newfound expansion of your consciousness, and you move through life as her, that's embodiment. And that's how you're going to experience life. So it's not going to feel uncomfortable. And again, yes, it will feel uncomfortable. So let me get to that before I lose it. When you're in a container, right? And it can be dating, it can be new, it can be romantic, it can be serious, there can be commitment involved. It doesn't matter. Container is a container when there's two people involved and they're both consciously choosing to get to know one another, to date one another, to spend time with one another, to walk down the path of potentially having a committed union with one another, right? That is dating. That is this romantic container that I want to really dive into. When you're showing up in this new version of self, again, it's going to be natural, but discomfort is a very big part of the equation, because what this dynamic does when you're entering into a union as a conscious being is it's going to be very confronting. You are going to be triggered, because the point of relationships at the end of the day, whether they work out or they don't, is to have personal growth, is to have your soul evolve. That is literally the point. Most of the time, when relationships don't work out, there should be a season of self. There should be reflection that happens afterwards to see, okay, how can I grow to no longer receive the same type of partners, receive the same patterns, receive the same lessons? Not everyone does that. A lot of the time, people like to just jump right into the next relationship. When doing that, you are most likely going to receive the same patterns, the same lessons, the same type of partners. That's why doing the inner work post relationship is so important. And it is just as important when you're in a relationship, when you're in this container. But that doesn't typically happen until you're at a certain point within your soul evolution, within your awakening or ascension journey. When you are a conscious being, when you and your partner are both emotionally intelligent, self-aware, and conscious, to know that, okay, growth is very much going to be a part of this journey. So let's see one another for it. Let's help one another with it. And let's fully dive into it and not sweep things under the rug. So to enter into this the first time as this new version of self was very confronting for me, because so early on, triggers were coming up to surface. And I was like, okay, like, why is this coming up? And the reason why things would come up was because my soul needed to heal certain things that I wasn't capable of healing on my own, because I wasn't able to see it. There was no one in my field to trigger what needed to be seen, what needed to be felt, what needed to be healed in order to be shifted. So now that I have this person who's literally triggering these things within me, it's like, okay, cool. I see it now. I know that I need to heal it, to evolve, so I can actually be in a container as this version of self that is not wounded, that is not healed. So it's going to be very triggering. It's going to be very confronting. And that is what's going to make it uncomfortable, especially if it's early on when like you're just getting to know someone and it's like, well, where's the honeymoon stage? The honeymoon stage is something that I think the ego attaches to. And though, let me be very clear, a relationship should not be toxic, especially in the beginning. It should never be toxic. And I think toxicity in relationships is heavily tied to the ego. I guarantee if you're someone who is conscious now, if you're in a conscious relationship now, if you look back on past relationships, how you showed up, how the partners that you were with showed up, there was probably toxicity to it, because you most likely were both very heavily showing up within your ego, within your wounding. When you show up that way, that's going to cause the dynamic to become icky. and the energy of the container to, like, literally the vibration of the container to be lower. When you're not showing up from a place of ego, when you're not showing up from a place of being toxic, it literally raises the vibration of the container. So again, this is completely separate from being toxic, being triggered, knowing that there needs to be something that you need to sit with, that you need to move through. That's not toxic. A partner that triggers you, again, is not toxic. If a partner triggers you and then you both don't know how to deal with it and it turns into an ego-driven conversation or a fight or nasty and toxicity, like, that should be looked at a little bit deeper. So always use your discernment. But to show up and to be confronted is very normal when you're entering into a conscious container, a conscious relationship. And I want to make this really clear. If you are someone who is still very much on an ascension journey, if you are someone who has recently awakened and you feel like you're still trying to embody the new version of self, there may be some you may feel disoriented with the old version of self and the new version of self, and you just, like, don't necessarily know how to show up. Give yourself grace. If you are dating and you're just beginning to go on dates, or if you're just entering into a relationship, or if you had an awakening within a long-term relationship and your partner is very much on the same level as you energetically, this is a beautiful way for the both of you to come together and, like, really help your souls evolve, because that can very much happen. You can be someone who has been in a long-term relationship, but you're both on the same path of evolution, because usually when you're not, that's when the relationship will falter, will come to an end, because the energy just is in misalignment. But give yourself grace here if this is, like, super new to you, because I want you to know that eventually dating will feel a little bit more positive. You will feel more in your power. You will be able to show up in your authentic light as your authentic self, speaking your authentic truth. And again, that does not mean to say that that will be tested, that that will be triggered, that that will be something that you need to sit with to expand, to deepen, because that is a thing that happens, as I just said. So I think it's just a really beautiful reflection to know that no matter what part of the journey you're at, no matter if you are single and dating or just getting into a relationship or in a long-term relationship and going on this journey as well, always give yourself grace, always use your discernment to know, like, okay, is this toxic or is this part of my soul's evolution? Now, what I do want to say is that what I've been experiencing recently, again, this is like, this is new. The type of partner that I'm with is very new to my human. My soul finds it familiar, because when you're embodying those high vibrational aspects of your soul, when you're in alignment to the truth of your soul is timeless, your soul is infinite. Awakening that version of self comes through remembrance. So, of course, your soul is going to find it familiar. Your soul is going to be so comfortable, but your human most likely will be super uncomfortable, because it's like a whole new dance that you've never done before. It's a whole new type of energy that you've never been with before. And your soul is like, this is what we've been waiting for. This is what's in alignment to your energy, to your soul, to all of these beautiful aspects of self that you've reawakened. But your human is like, I don't understand. Like, what is this? How is this happening? How is this, something that I can learn to be comfortable with, because it's so different from everything and anything that I'm used to. And that's one of the most beautiful reflections of where I'm at right now, is the type of person that has stepped into my life and just the energy that he represents, the way that he shows up, the way that he is able to hold space, the way that he is able to call me out and do things in a way that like is so in alignment to my soul. So always know that when you embody this new version of self, this awakened version of self, you are going to attract a partner that is also in alignment, that holds the same vibrational frequency. And though you will be different, most likely women hold, and this is not always true at all, but most likely women are the ones to lead within the spiritual realm. So if you are listening to this, you most likely will be the one who is a little bit more spiritually, quote unquote, evolved. Does not mean that the other person isn't as spiritually evolved. They can just have a different, you can be on the same level of consciousness and vibrating and experiencing life from that same level, but the lens in which you see and experiencing life through can be different. As the woman, you can be more spiritually open and spiritually advanced, whereas the man can be, let's say, more I don't know, emotionally intelligent, emotionally advanced than you are, right? So again, everyone's different. There's no right, there's no wrong. When you are aligned to your highest version of self, you're going to attract a partner who is also aligned to that same vibrational frequency, just as you would if you're moving from a place of your wounding. You're going to attract a partner that's at that same energetic level. Typically, why things most likely don't work out or keep you stagnant or will keep you in a relationship that's not serving you in your highest and greatest good. So yeah, I feel like I just went on a whole tangent. I don't even know what I was saying, but let me just take a breath for a second. So just going back to what I was saying about the honeymoon stage, that's something that is derived from the ego. It's not even a thing, right? The ego attaches to, oh, well, if we're all just living in delusion and love and light and cultivating such high vibrational energy of joy and it's exciting, then that's the honeymoon stage. And when that fizzles out, things kind of slow down from there. It's all the ego. If you understand that the container that you're going into is rooted in love, it's rooted in light, it's rooted in joy, it's rooted in excitement, that's always going to be the foundation of the partnership. That's going to be the foundation of the experience that you're having. It doesn't mean that harder things are going to come to surface. Because again, if you understand that you're entering into this for the sole purpose of soul level growth, of course you're going to be triggered. Of course things are going to come to surface, while at the same time understanding that those triggers, that confrontation is rooted in the highest form of love and rooted in the highest form of light. It's just illuminating the parts of you that need to be healed, so the container as an energy, the vibration of it can raise, expanding the joy, expanding the love, expanding the excitement, which is a constant ebb and flow in life, just as life is. There's highs, there's lows. It's about remaining neutral. It's about staying in the present. It's about moving from the place of your heart, detaching from the ego. So honeymoon phase is, it's such a ego-driven narrative, while at the same time, like I think it does a lot more harm than it can do good, because you are literally looking at a linear phase within a relationship, being like, okay, the first 6 months were really good, but now it's like after that, we don't have sex, we don't go on dates, we're not connecting like we would, real life issues are coming up. When it's like, well, of course that's happening. Of course that's happening. How are you going to deal with it? Are you going to fall into that rut and just allow that narrative, because the honeymoon phase is over, allow that narrative to run your life? Or are you going to say, okay, like we had a really good run of joy and excitement, and I want to keep cultivating that. But in order to keep cultivating that, you have to allow the energy to evolve. And the only way to allow the energy to evolve is to look at your shit that's coming to surface and see how you together and separately can work through that shit to raise the frequency, raise the vibration. So that's that's like the energy that shows up within these conscious quote unquote conscious, sacred, divine relationships, right? It's totally different than going into a relationship completely asleep, completely blind, completely moving from a place of the ego. When the heart leads, it's real. When the heart leads, there is no hiding. When the heart leads, there is no escaping the truth. When the heart leads, you're able to be present. When the heart leads, you're able to cultivate such high vibrational frequencies of joy and excitement and love and connectiveness and depth and intimacy and all of the things, while at the same time moving through cycles, at the same time moving through the more difficult things. And oftentimes, the difficult things, this is the complete opposite energy of the honeymoon phase. The difficult things may come to surface within the beginning because your soul is preparing you for the energy of what the highest form of the union can be. And again, everyone's experience is different. There is no right or wrong. We should not attach to these narratives that are being presented to us to let you know if it's a twin flame, if it's divine union, if it's karmic, like it doesn't matter at the end of the day. What matters is how you feel when you're in it, especially as an evolved being, especially as women. Our intuition, we can feel and we can sense things and we can see things a lot more clearly than people who are asleep can. So it's using your discernment of like, okay, I know I need to work through this to heal X, Y, and Z. I know I'm meant to show up and hold space for this person, your partner, the other person, to work through X, Y, and Z. I can see a trigger that's coming up for him. How am I going to help him with that trigger? Or I can see he's triggering this in me without allowing my ego to get involved. How can I drop into my heart more to expand upon that? So it's a completely different energy, a completely different dynamic. Is it easier? I mean, this is the thing. When you're, and this was something that I was talking to the person that I'm dating, I was talking to him about this too. It's like when you're awake, it's kind of like a double-edged sword, because as an awakened being, you're experiencing life through such a different lens than the majority of people. You see things for the depth of it. You don't take things for face value when you are self-aware. You constantly want to understand why things are showing up, how you can evolve from them, how you can heal and how you can shift and how you can expand more into your heart. That's not necessarily easy, right? That can be a lot to feel so deeply, to sit with things, to constantly be like, okay, like let me change or heal this. And it doesn't need to be constant, right? There are cycles and there are periods of just enjoying life and all of the things, but you're moving from a completely different lens. And I think it's beautiful because you're seeing life from a whole different perspective. You're not prisoner anymore to a certain system. You're not prisoner anymore to the way that you think things have to be. You're free. Being spiritually evolved, there's an essence of freedom that comes with it because you are taking back your power. Whereas when you're not spiritually evolved and you're asleep, there's a big essence of you giving away your power, falling victim to things, choosing to just sweep things under the rug so they can pop up a couple months later in a whole different form and then having to deal with it again. So is it easier? Yes and no. I mean, I can't answer that question because that's how I experience life in general. I think it's more beautiful. I think that to the human mind, it will be more difficult. To the person who is judging from a state of being asleep, it would not make sense. It would feel a lot more difficult. But for people who understand that living from the heart comes with a lot of feelings, comes with a lot of exploration of self, this is normal. So again, use your discernment because it's not meant to be toxic. You are not meant to feel like shit. You're not meant to live in delusion, holding a vision of what it can be post working through the hard things, right? It's about being neutral, staying in the heart, being in the now, and moving from here. What is your heart telling you? How is your heart asking you to show up? How is your heart asking you to move? Are you being reflected back the things that you know that you are worthy of, that you know you deserve, that feel good from a heart level, while also understanding that there are ups and downs, and that if you're both on the same page, you're going to be able to hold the space of the container in the same way for one another as individuals, as a union, and journey through the experience in the best way possible from a heart-led space. So, yeah. And the most important thing that I want to just reflect to you is that, and I know I've said this so many times, it's like when you're stuck within the inner work, when you're stuck within the energy of like needing to evolve or needing to heal or explore wounding or explore your traumas and your depth, you're not meant to stay there. You're not meant to stay there. And it's the same when you're in a conscious partnership. If you're in a period of like triggering, if you're in a period of healing, if you're in a period of doing the inner work, you're not meant to stay there. You're still very much meant to experience it, move through it, but cultivate an energy of love and excitement and joy, and like literally lean into that. Because as one energy expands, the other energy is going to expand. So just reflecting that back to you, because it's so easy to get caught up in the harder stuff and to stay there, than it is to allow yourself to enjoy. And I mean, that's a personal reflection because I'm someone who has a difficult time receiving, and that has been something that has come up multiple times since, starting to date this person. And to be able to receive is such a gift. To allow yourself to receive is such a beautiful gift. And it opens up doorways in other ways in life. It expands yourself in a way of where you can truly begin to just allow, right? Receiving doesn't just mean, okay, receiving a compliment or receiving a gift. It also means receiving what's divinely meant for you without there being blocks, allowing things just to flow easy, allowing things to flow from your heart, to not self-sabotage, to not doubt, to not get into the mind. So allow yourself, really give yourself permission to receive the goodness, the joy, the beauty that comes with this. And again, no matter if something is going to work out for forever, no matter if it's only meant for a short period of time, the most important thing that you can do is to be present, to just allow yourself to feel, and feel from a place that feels good, and receive from a place that feels good, knowing that whatever the future holds is always for your greatest and highest good. And what's happening within your current reality is happening for you and not to you. So allow everything to unfold, move in the way that you're being guided to move. Don't hold on, don't attach, let go, receive, and enjoy. Okay, my loves. I hope that if you are dating, if you are in a relationship, if you are just showing up in this new version of self, that you allow yourself to be authentic, that you allow yourself to be uncomfortable, that you allow yourself to feel, because it's a gift. When someone else comes into your life that is meant to be in your life, again, for a period, for a short period, for a long period, it's for a reason, and it's here to serve you in a way that is divinely meant for you. So allow yourself to enjoy, allow yourself to just be you, because you are worthy of being her. And until next time, I love you, I love you, I love you. Bye.